In Matthew 9:36-38, it says, "When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. He said to his disciples, 'The harvest is great, but the workers are few. So pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest and ask him to send more workers into the fields.'" This verse is when Jesus is telling his disciples to go to their neighbors in Jerusalem and to send more people into Jerusalem and to share more with those people. That way they can in turn share the good news with others. So that verse is a command to his disciples, but it's also a command to us in today's time. It is Jesus telling us that we need to go throughout and spread the good word and spread the good news. And so to do that, we need to evaluate our motives for sharing Christ. Our motive should be to have our hearts line up with Jesus' heart. This particular verse, verse 36, shows Jesus' heart for those who are broken and lost without Christ. It says Jesus has compassion on them, and that which compassion is God feels a heart for them, and his heart is to share with them. And we need to ask God to give us that heart that Jesus had for the lost people. Jesus goes on to say in verse 38 that the harvest is plenty and the workers are few. So the disciples should pray that the Lord to send more workers into the harvest besides just the 12 disciples. They should pray for those who they are sharing with before they go out to share with them. So you shouldn't just wake up one day and be like, "Hey, I'm just going to go out on a whim and just share with this person that I've never thought about sharing with before." And you should pray for that person. You should invest in that person beforehand. You shouldn't just be like, "Hey, I'm just going to go share with them," because it's a lot easier to share with somebody if you have that relationship with them and if you invest in them and pray for them, for God to come into their lives. And according to the Great Commission, God is calling all of us as Christians to share the gospel. However, for some of us, God may call us to a specific place or a particular mission. If we feel God calling us to a specific mission field, we should take action according to the example Jesus has set. As I said in this passage, Jesus is sending the disciples to their neighbors in Jerusalem. He is calling them and telling them, "Hey, go out and share with these people." And that could be as someone who is a full-time missionary in Kenya, or somebody who is a full-time youth minister or a full-time pastor. And backing up to verse 35, it almost gives a summary of what Jesus' ministry was like at the time. He traveled through all the towns, teaching and announcing the good news to all of the people, regardless of who they were. Jesus had a heart for telling others about Jesus, and he went without fear or hesitancy. Can we honestly say the same thing about ourselves? I remember a time when I was a kid and my parents first started going on mission trips and sharing with people, and they would come back and they would have all these great stories about what they would do. And I was like, "Oh, that's great, that's awesome," but it really didn't ever sink in when I was a kid, like what exactly that meant, until I first went on my first mission trip to South Korea. And it was amazing. It was probably one of the most amazing experiences I've had, and it was just so awesome to be able to go and share God's word, because I felt God calling me to go share God's word, and to see people's lives truly start to transform and be in the image of Christ. And to do that, you have to be a disciple. And to be a disciple, you are an avid follower and student of the teacher. Our teacher is Jesus. If you are a follower of Jesus and believe he is the way, the truth, and the life, then you should be a disciple of him. That means this call he has given to his disciples in this passage is a call to you as well. We should feel compassion for those who are lost and desire to share his word with them because they are lost. And we should desire to show them the shepherd that they so desperately need, which is Jesus Christ.